Awesome! So you guys understand the insane importance of being genuinely interested in others and giving them a huge feeling of significance, which is just like the coolest thing ever. I want to jump right in now to something that's so powerful, and it's connected with smiling, it's connected with happiness, it's connected with positivity, and it's this concept of like how you handle yourself in basically any social situation whatsoever. And learning this one concept was just so fundamentally groundbreaking for me, and so I'm just super excited to share. So let's go over to the computer, let's make it happen. So if you want to make friends, like one of the best things you can do is to be ridiculously animated and happy and enthusiastic and excited. Now what's cool is like somebody calls you on the telephone. Say hello in a tone that talks about how happy you are to see the person that calls you. What's crazy is that companies train the telephone operators to greet all callers in a tone that radiates interest and enthusiasm. The caller feels the company's concerned about them, the company cares about them, etc., when they have interest and enthusiasm. It makes them feel more important, more significant, more valued, and essentially just better to be talking to somebody else who actually cares. And what's cool is like if you want to do this, all you have to do is answer the phone smiling. Like, because smiling will naturally make you happier, will naturally make you sound like you're a happier person, like you're more excited, like you're more interested, like you're more enthusiastic. So you can just follow this one simple thing, like smile when you answer the phone, smile when you talk to other people, smile when you meet someone. It will like literally change everything, because showing a genuine interest in others not only wins friends, but it also develops like little clients and fosters these really deep connections and relationships. Even if maybe you're not like 100%, you don't know each other the best, all you have to do is have that smile, and that can be enough just to break over that edge and make it happen. Now what's cool is that in the publication of the National Bank North America of New York, Madeline Rosendale, who was a depositor, said that she really appreciated the staff at the bank because they were polite and they were helpful, and it was a pleasure to have this one lady who was helping tons of people. It was so nice for her because she got to be at the end of this line after tons of people. She makes it to the front, and this lady is so happy. She greets her with a huge smile, very pleasantly. And what's crazy is like most people, you know, they're working and they see all this and they see this huge line of people and they're like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, I can't believe it. And I used to be like this too, like when I was working alone at Subway and there were like huge lines of people that wanted sandwiches. And I would be like, oh my gosh, are you serious? But look, that's not the right mindset. Like, you have to be happy and excited and grateful because like you gotta do whatever you're gonna have to do anyway. And if you're doing it negatively, it's literally like poisoning your mind and hurting you. So there's no reason to do that, right? And so if you can just replace that negativity with positivity, first of all, you're gonna be happier to be with others. Others are gonna be happier to be with you, and your satisfaction is gonna go way up. But kind of second of all, more importantly, like literally you will become a better person who is 10 times easier to attract friends and be connected with others, and therefore they'll reciprocate and do nice things for you, which is like insane, right? Charles Walters, one of the largest bankers in the city, was preparing this huge confidential report, and he was like the only one who he knew, the only person who knew had like all the facts he needed was this one guy. He was the president of this big corporation, and as Mr. Walters, he rushes, get ushers into this guy's office. She sticks her head through the door, and her secretary comes in and says that the president doesn't have any stamps for her son's like stamp project. And then she goes back and she leaves. Walters, he tries to really get all of these information out of the president. And the president's just trying to talk about the stamp collection he has for his 12-year-old son. But Mr. Walters, he doesn't really care, and he stated his position, just started asking questions. And because of that, the president was vague, he was nebulous. He just didn't want to talk, and nothing could really persuade him to talk. And so the interview was brief, it was barren. Mr. Walters, he didn't know what to do, and he didn't understand like, this concept to make people win him and make people like him. This one bank teller did, which was to be genuinely interested in others, and be positive and nice and happy with other people. He just didn't understand that just yet. So he went home and he thought, okay, well, you know, how can I really make him want to do things with me, right? And he's sitting there, he's thinking, and he recalls that the secretary came in, and he also wanted these stamps, and he realized that the foreign department at the bank collected stamps from letters that poured in from every continent washed by the 70s. And the next afternoon, he called on this man and sent in word that he had stamps for his kid. And he was brought into this office so quickly to go and talk to this guy because he wanted stamps for his kid. What did he do? He differentiated himself from like literally every single other person who just couldn't care less about this guy and are only interested in themselves. Instead, he looked at it from his perspective and said, what does he actually want? And then he learned what he wanted. He freaking got it for him. And this guy greeted him with so much enthusiasm, so much happiness, and so much significance that it was like a no-brainer. Like, oh my gosh, you're the coolest person ever. I can't believe you just did that. Thank you so much. Look forward, months of confidence, convalescence pain, all flew away. And it was insane. It's like, this guy comes into the office. He just radiated smiles and goodwill. And he kept looking at all the stamps over and over again. Just for half an hour, all he does is talk about stamps. Because the stamps are what he cares about, right? They relate to his kid, which is what he's passionate about. So he's focusing on what he likes. And after they spend all this time looking at stamps, looking at pictures of his kid, they talk for an hour plus. He gives him every single bit of information that he asked for. Because he knows like what the reporter guy wants. To get this information, right, he needed to do what? He needed to kind of like add value into that relationship and make him have a reason to care, a reason to like actually do something for each other, which is like ridiculously cool, right? And so that's what gave him like all the facts, all the figures, all the reports that nobody else could get, because he went out there and actually looked at it from his point of view and gave it to him. Another guy named C.M. Knaffel from Philadelphia tried for years to sell fuel to a large chain store organization, but the chain store company continued to purchase fuel from a rival from out-of-town dealer and haul it past his office. And Mr. Knaffel made a speech one night before his classes, pouring out the hot wrath upon chain stores and branding them as a curse of the nation, blah, 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 blah. What he's doing is he's walking into this potential client, and he really wants a business, but at first he gets a little struggle, right? At first there's a little hump in the road he has to overcome. And he's trying, but he just can't overcome this hump. And he can't get to the other side. And so because of that, in his mind, he's creating all these excuses and all these reasons and all these negative thoughts about why this is like a bad company and how they're evil and they're not buying fuel because they're bad. And like all that's doing is what? It's raising the amount of friction that's gonna stop this sale from happening. It's raising the amount of effort he needs to put forth to actually make it happen, because that negativity, what's it do? It increases the barrier to business, right? And it totally destroys the potential connection here, versus like if he was positive, it'd be way easier for him to make this transaction. But he's not, right? He's negative. And so these guys, they tell him that he needs to be happy. He needs to go and talk about all the good things that he's doing, whether or not they get it or not. He needs to care about this deal, but not that much. And he needs to kind of back off so that it's easier to make the deal. And at the same time, it's still going to take some energy, right? But you just can't care that much. And so he took a suggestion and he agreed to defend the chain stores and say how cool the chain stores were and say how awesome his potential client was, instead of focusing on how mean they were. And he walks into their office and he says that he's not there to sell them fuel, but instead he came to ask for help because he can't think of anybody else who'd be more capable of giving him the facts he wanted. He came there not to sell, but to be genuinely interested in these clients and ask them all about their business, because he was anxious to learn everything for this debate he was doing. And it was so cool because he asked this man for a minute of his time, and all he did was try to learn about him and focus on him. Motioned him to the chair and they talked for an hour and 47 minutes. Then he called another executive who wrote a book on chain stores. He wrote to the National Chain Store Association and secured him a copy of a debate on the subject. And all he did was he gave this guy all the information, because this guy did what? He came in and he was interested about him and about what he was passionate about. This is the leader of the entire company on chain stores. Like, of course, he's gonna be passionate about chain stores. And what's even cooler is that after this happens, he realizes that these guys are actually super cool and they're doing an amazing thing for society. And so his outlook increases in positivity. His outlook increases in depth because he actually understands the situation. Because like so often, right, people will be mean to things, they won't like things, maybe they'll think something's bad just because they don't really fully understand it. And so as he gets all these details and he gets all these facts, what he realizes is that these guys are actually super cool. And so he in turn becomes much nicer to them, much more positive positive, much more energetic. And as he was leaving with this whole new mental attitude, the guy I was just talking to, who has been running, hundreds of companies, his eyes were literally glowing while he was talking, and he was ridiculously happy. And showed him things that this manager guy, this salesman, would literally have never thought of in his whole life. He would never have understood if he just didn't come in and get this perspective from this new person. As he's leaving, he walks the door. This guy puts his arm around his shoulder, wishes him well in his debate, and asks him to stop it and see him again, and let him know how he made it out. The last words he said, "Please see me again later in spring. I should like to place an order with you for fuel." After years and years and years of failure, being completely unable to sell this guy anything, all he had to do was become genuinely interested in what he was talking about and listen for just little bit under 2 hours, and he instantly gets the order that he desires by simply being able to sit there while this guy talks about himself and what he's passionate about. Absolutely insane. This guy thought it was a miracle. He offered to buy fuel without even suggesting it, because this guy already freaking knows that he wants him to buy fuel. He doesn't have to suggest it. He made more headway in 2 hours by becoming genuinely interested in him and his problems than he could have made in 10 years trying to get him interested in his product and his fuel and himself. Because it doesn't matter, right? People don't care about you. They care about themselves. They want to talk about themselves. It's not like a whole new truth. For a long time, hundreds of years before Christ was born, a famous old Roman poet, Cyrus remarked, "We are interested," so powerful. He said, "We are interested in others when they are interested in us." How huge is that? How cool. A show of interest, as with every other principle of human relations, is scarce. And it pays off, not only for the person who shows the interest, but for the person receiving the attention. Because once you are able to give, and once you can receive back from reciprocity, what you learn is that there is a complete and total abundance of energy and of interest and of care and of quality, genuine connections. As long as you can just create them over and over and over again. And all you have to do is practice this process, and practice being interested in other people, and practice putting out your efforts, putting in your energy to actually connect with others. And the moment that you do that, what's absolutely berserk is that they will connect with you, and there will be this insanely deep connection. Because all you have to do is be interested in others sincerely, and it will pay off so much, because both people benefit, right? It's a two-way street. And it's just so powerful, because all you have to do is start the process, right? See, the problem is people, they wait for other people to start the process, when in reality, all you have to do is just make that first step, give that first contribution, and it starts a cycle, right? It's like rolling a snowball down a hill. You just have to start by pounding out a little bit of snow and just start rolling it, right? And if you can just start, because most people, they don't want to start. They don't want to make that first little snowball. But if you just make that first little snowball, just start rolling down the hill, start connecting with them, and start becoming genuinely interested in them. In turn, they'll become interested in you, and you'll both grow and grow and grow and grow and succeed at higher levels over time at exponential rates. It's so huge. Carnegie had this one student who reported how the special interest of a nurse took him profoundly and just completely changed his life. It was Thanksgiving Day, and this kid, he was 10 years old. He was in this hospital bed. Just this little kid. He was on welfare ward, and he was scheduled to undergo major orthopedic surgery the next day. And he knew he could only look forward to months and months of confinement, convalescence, and pain. I mean, he was about to go through some serious, bad crap stuff. His dad was just dead. His mother, she lived alone in a small apartment, and they were on welfare. And so his mother, she was far away at home, and she was unable to visit him because, she had to. And his mother, she was far away at home, and she wasn't able to come and visit him because she had to work. She had to keep making money so that she could eat. Oh my God, just so messed up. Can you imagine that? I was at this one seminar, and this guy, he was in the hospital. He had burned his whole face and his whole body. It was just awful. And as he was in recovery, there was this 6 or 8 year old kid that was in physical therapy with him. And this kid had been there for months and months and months and months, and he was gonna be there for basically a year of his life. What was interesting is as he kept going back to physical therapy over and over and over again, he asked one of the nurses, he always saw this kid, and he's like, where's this kid's parents? Where's his family? And it's sort of the same situation. The father was gone, and she says the mom's so poor that she can't afford to take off work to come here. She has to keep working. Oh my God, just the worst situation possible. And it's this idea that if you don't build up assets, you don't create assets in your life that are gonna give you that financial freedom and allow you to have like actual control over your time, you get trapped in a self-fulfilling prophecy, a loop where you just keep working and working and working for other people instead of yourself. And then you just are total and complete. You're just not able to like focus on what actually matters. You have to focus on money instead of like literally the most important thing in your life. In this lady's life was like her kid, right? She wasn't able to focus on what really mattered because she was so caught up with money because she just had no freaking choice. And it's just so awful. And so that's why it's like so important that you create real assets and build real savings and retirements. So if crap like this happens, like you're able to push through. It's so insane. And for her, like it sucked because she was sort of trapped, but it was worse for this kid, right? And this kid in the hospital in physical therapy, because like they're like completely alone, right? And this is just destroying their perceptions of money and how they see the world around them. And it's just this terrible situation. And so that's kind of the exact same situation that this guy was in when he was in that hospital. His mother was just completely unable to visit him. And as he went on, he became overwhelmed with loneliness, with despair, with fear, with all these negative emotions. Because he knew his mother was at home, alone, worrying, not having anyone to be with, not having anyone to eat with, not even having enough money to afford a Thanksgiving dinner. And he was so sad, crying up, stuck his head under the pillow, pulled the covers over him, just cried and cried. He was so bitter. His body was racked with pain. And then this young student nurse, she came in. She heard this kid cry. She came over to him. She took the covers off his face and started wiping his tears. She told him how lonely she was, having to work on Thanksgiving and not being able to be with her family. She asked him whether he would have dinner with her. She brought in 2 trays of food. She had like sliced turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and ice cream for dessert. Talked to him, tried to calm his fears. And even though she was scheduled to go off duty at 4 p.m., she stayed on her own time until almost 11 at night. She played games with this kid, talked to him, and stayed with him till he finally fell asleep. Many Thanksgivings have come and gone since he was 10, but one never passes without him remembering that particular one and his feelings of frustration, fear, loneliness, and warmth that were just so powerful, so gone, and replaced with like warmth and with tenderness from the stranger that somehow was able to make it all bearable because she came in, she added a ridiculous amount of value. She was interested in this kid. She cared about this kid. She put in her energy, her mind, and her effort. This idea that she would serve this kid and she would make it happen. And she did. She changed his whole perception, his whole day, and fundamentally shifted the course of his life from a negative state to an insanely positive state by just showing an act of generosity and of kindness. And it was so huge. So think like, you know, it took what, maybe 5, 6, 7 hours of her time to do this, and it was like a game changer. This guy will never forget this experience. So like, how could you go out there and be generous to others and like literally change their whole lives or really fundamentally shift to how they view your relationship just by being a little more generous? You want others to like you, you want to develop real friends, you want to help others at the same time as you help yourself. Become genuinely interested in others. So huge, so profound. Go out there, guys, apply it, absolutely crush it, and I will see you in the next module as you guys become genuinely interested in other people. Next, we're gonna move on to sort of a simple way to make a good first impression, which is super cool. But I'm really glad that you guys got this one because this is huge. And now that you have it, you're gonna go out there, you're gonna apply it, and you're gonna be literally a legend, separating yourself from masses and masses of people to become the true, like maximum potential, maximum fulfillment, and maximum social skill being that you deserve. So super cool stuff, guys. Congratulations on going through this course. It's awesome. Go out there, crush it, and I will see you in the next module. Thanks.